Hello, how are you guys today? And I'm so excited to welcome Ann Marie to my show today. And it is Chai Time with Prabhleen. And she's an amazing yoga instructor and she has her own studio, right? Is it? In White Rock?
I teach in a yoga studio in White Rock.
Okay.
It's a friend of mine owns it, and I teach at her studio.
Awesome. That's beautiful, Anne. And Anne, so how did you start teaching yoga? Like, what inspired you?
The inspiration behind me participating and practicing yoga and becoming a teacher was that I wasn't really healthy. I didn't have the best lifestyle about 10 years ago. I was overweight. I was unhappy in my profession, and I was in an unhappy relationship. And so that impacted my life. And I felt really low. I felt lethargic and anxious and tired most of the time, and it wasn't a really positive way to live. And the turning point for me was when I started to drink alcohol, a lot of alcohol, to try to get that buzz, to feel happy, to bring joy into my life, and it was just bringing the opposite to me. It got to the point where I felt so lost outside of myself and so alone, I was contemplating suicide. And that's not an option. Well, it is, but it's not the option that I wanted. So I did seek help, and thank goodness for that. I met with a doctor for 14 weeks, 3 times a week. And she had prescribed walks every day, journaling, and meeting with her 3 times a week, and to participate and learn the practice of yoga.
You are so blessed, Anne, because most of the time people don't know where to start. You know, they know they have mental health issues, and I feel alcoholism is also a symptom of it, a coping mechanism. They feel that they can lean on it, right? But they don't know how to get help or even ask for help. So what came to you that you called the doctor?
Well, I got to the point where I wasn't really functioning well. I was on a stress leave from work, and I was just drinking so much almost every day. I had a daughter, and I would look at my daughter and I'd think, what type of a role model am I? I really need to get my life in order. Otherwise, I may lose my daughter in that relationship. And so I was at the point where I was contemplating suicide, planning what that was going to look like, got into my vehicle, and drove over the Alex Fraser Bridge with the intention that perhaps I could go fast enough and crash over the barricades. And then my thought was, what if I survive? And I just kept going over the bridge, stopped, parked the car, burst into tears, and I phoned my doctor. And I was able to see her. She brought me in that next day, and we had a conversation, and she referred me to another doctor that has an expertise in working with women and men with addiction issues, mental health issues, and it was the best decision I ever made to call my doctor and then see my second doctor.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
great.
Was he specialized or she specialized in something?
So Dr. Patricia Sutherland, and she, when I met with her, she did confirm that I wasn't depressed, but that there was trauma in my life, and I had not been able to release that trauma. And to mask the trauma, I identified with different coping skills. So I had an eating disorder, and I started to drink alcohol. And so that didn't help me discover the true depth of the issues, but she did through that period of 14 weeks. It was amazing.
Wow. So 14 weeks. And Anne, it's like you get to go to the doctor, but in the end, it's up to you to follow the process. What took you, like the strength, or was it the mindset that you're like, this is it, and I'm going to do it for myself?
You know, I there was a light and a spark within me, and I truly believe that we create our lives. And if you are in a place of negativity, and if your energy levels keep you feeling low, that energy or vibration is low. And when you do more of what you love, the energy shifts and the vibration level shifts, and it enters you into a greater space of love and happiness.
Yes.
And I had that spark because I was connected to my daughter and I loved her so much. And that was the power and the motivation for me. And then I was able to turn it towards myself, because I can't do something for someone else. And it's like, okay, if I want to be a role model for my daughter, I really have to live a happy life. And it was at that point I made a decision to live within 3 values, and they are health, happiness, and prosperity.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, Anne. I completely believe you there. And my next question to you is, how can yoga help other women professionally and personally? Like, what is your experience and what have you learned that you would want to tell these women to follow?
Well, I was apprehensive at first about participating in yoga. It took me a little while to embrace the practice. And I think in part because we are encouraged to, and I often use the word brainwashed to do, be busy, and strive for success. And this is part of life, but the other part of life is being true and authentic to who we are as individuals. And we need that time to relax, restore, recharge, to be successful in life. And yoga is a great practice for anybody, shape, size, or age. And it helps us to bring life into our body through our breath. And this is our life source here, our heart.
Right.
And when we connect with that, we can move our body to stretch, to build strength, to become more flexible, to increase balance and mobility. And all of those things help in building strategies and techniques to build into a successful personal and professional life.
100%, and I agree here. And I'm going to go back to the question that you went to the doctor, and the doctor told you to do a few things, right? Would you like to share with us what were those?
Yes, at first I thought I'd get a prescription and a pill, and I don't want to minimize mental health issues at all. And she didn't prescribe a pill. Her prescription to me was to walk 3 times a day, and I like to walk, and I was walking anyway, and I wasn't working, so I could fit in 3 walks a day. And then the other request in the prescription was I would journal, and that every time we met she would ask me questions and I would journal about that. We would talk about that, and she was helping me create a roadmap to change my life, because I was looking for a plan to get out of a very toxic, unhealthy relationship, and I didn't know how to do that. So she was going to help me with that, as well as help me really connect in with who I am and what was going on in my younger years, to resolve some of the trauma.
Yes.
And the third thing she said was that I was to practice yoga. And I said, no, I can't do that. And she said, well, then I can't see you. And so I was shocked, and I made the commitment. And I saw her a couple days later, and she asked about yoga, and I said I hadn't found a studio, and she called me out on that. And I saw her the next week and said that I still wasn't comfortable about going to yoga. And she said, well, you need to really get in there, because we agreed that you would do this. So it took me a little while, and I did find a studio. And I didn't know how to practice yoga. I would go in and I'd sit on my mat and I'd watch people because there are a lot of terms in yoga that I was unfamiliar with.
Yes.
And I was overweight. I would weighed over 200 pounds, so I was very self-conscious. So I sat, watched, and listened. And then second week, I really connected with two instructors, and they really guided me to start to breathe and to move gently, slowly. And the rest really was history. I knew probably in after 4 weeks of practicing that I wanted to teach yoga, that I was going to become a yoga instructor, and that as I moved into my retirement years, this was how I was going to live my life.
Wow. And the universe was guiding you the way through, and he had the whole plan was laid out, but it's the time that we don't realize that the challenges that we're facing, they're temporary, and they're moving you towards a better life. You know, so we in the time we're like blinded, right?
It's
That's
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how does practicing yoga contributes to the resilience and maintaining a life, like overcoming any challenge? Like, how would you tell our listeners?
Well, for me, it really comes down to establishing those activities that fuel you and are grounded in love. So yoga for me is a love story, and every day I'll do a practice, whether I'm teaching or not. And I do that because it helps ground me. And when I sit on my mat and I start generally with a short meditation, I relax into who I am and focus on what I want to do that day. And then as I continue to breathe, I slowly start to move my body. And as you're moving your body, you start to feel completely connected, mind, body, heart as one. And when we start to feel how we're feeling, we strengthen our intuition. We all have an intuition. And in business, if you can really feel how you're feeling, that can guide you into making better decisions because you have clarity. You can establish clear boundaries so that you establish where you want to go, when, how, and why. And it just propels you in that direction. And yoga helps us with strength to stay connected to who we are, that resilience to move through when there are those blocks, because we're going to face them, and then a flexibility to explore a potential of perhaps trying something different that might scare you, and it could be the best experience in your life. Because
most of the time we think that yoga is about physical flexibility, but it is so much more about mental and emotional flexibility. So how did that aspect of yoga can help others in practicing yoga?
Well, I think you're bang on, because people do think that physical exercise is the answer. And so health is and contains a lot of different components, right? There's mental health, spiritual health, physical health, psychological health, all these different components of health. And I practice hatha yoga, and that particular style is a little more spiritual because you're using your breath to slow you down and relax into who you are. And when we become our own best friend, the relationship with who we are changes. And so there are some physical benefits, of course, of yoga. I was over 200 pounds when I started. I've lost weight. I've maintained that weight now for over 7 years. And nothing's really changed except that I practice yoga every day, and I attribute that to that success. So I think that if you can feel into yoga, to take time out of your schedule to participate in a class, you'll start to notice some changes. Most classes are 60 minutes.
Right.
And there are a variety of different types of classes that women could choose from that one, I'm sure, would fit in with who they are and what they'd like to do.
Yeah, because in our busy schedules, as you are an entrepreneur and I am one, and we're just busy business owners that keep on going with our lives because we have so many ideas and this and that. So what is your advice to like these busy women who have less time and their stress levels are more, and because they have to balance a personal life and work life, and they have to do chores in the meantime? So is there anything you would recommend for the short time, or would you recommend them at least join one class a week? Like, where do they start from?
Well, I'm a firm believer that you have to set yourself up for success, and you establish those routines and do more of what you love. And when you discover what you love, you keep doing that and you fit it into your schedule. Now, we are busy as entrepreneurs, and we can use that as an excuse. And for me, no excuses. Self first is a priority. Now, people think, oh my gosh, that is so selfish. But it isn't really, because we need to have an energy to respect, honor, and love ourselves first, to have that energy to respect, love, and honor the people that we're doing business with. And so if we are not able to do that, we lose opportunities and potential for connection. And so it's looking at your schedule and self first. Where is the time for me to participate in a yoga practice? There are classes early in the morning, some studios 5:30 a.m. and then right into the evenings. So if you were to look at your schedule, you plan out your yoga when you can fit that in, and then you start to attend the classes. And for people, I think the benefit is to try to connect and do 2 classes a week. And then if you can fit a third one in, that's great. You can also practice yoga at home, and it doesn't have to be too complex. You could put together 3 different postures, and that would be enough to clear your mind, bring energy into the body, and feel whole and complete again.
What are those postures? Would you like to? I know we cannot fit in the whole yoga postures here. If you'll name some and people could Google it, and I can mention it in the link below that they can go and follow, or they can check out your website and see those poses. So would you like to name some of those?
So I'll use the English terms rather than the Sanskrit terms. Tree pose is a great pose. It's a balance pose. And I love it because when you think about trees, they root into the earth, and those roots spread out into the earth, and they're solid, and it's a great foundation. So as entrepreneurs, we want to feel rooted and grounded with a strong foundation in terms of who we are as well as our purpose. And then that tree is lifting up towards the sun and the light. And I do believe in a God, and so I always am looking up because I know that that's there. So whatever your belief system is, maybe it's a divine or source or Mother Earth or whatever it is, imagine what that could be. And you're looking up and you're reaching and striving. Branches are going out, and then you're strong and stable, and the wind may blow or the busyness of life may have you shifting back and forth, and it's standing strong in that posture and then knowing when to let things go. And so it's very powerful. It's one of my favorite postures because I really think that as entrepreneurs, we will sometimes connect to and attach to something that it should be this way. And yet, if things are not moving us forward because we're stuck on that possibility, we need to let that go because it will open something else up. So we get a lesson from a tree, right?
Yeah, it's so much deeper than, like we already talked about, is the physical aspect. Because I feel it's like meditation. because you're so connected. And meditation is also about, that's what I feel. It's like connecting within yourself. And I feel like the yoga provides the same thing, and so is the journaling and the walking. It's all about self-care.
Yes.
You want to pull yourself out of that anxiety or out of that stress. It's the first thing comes in self-care. Where do you start? Building up your habits, right?
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So another posture, the warrior postures, there's warrior 1, warrior 2, and warrior 3. Warrior 1 is a great posture because you're stabilized. It's a standing posture. Hips are forward, your arms are lifted, chest is proud, and you're opening up that heart center. And love is the answer. So the more you can open yourselves up, the more you've got that ability to receive love. And when you're in that place of love, generally you have and can trust that the universe has your back and nothing will go wrong. A warrior 2 is a little bit more of a side angle. You're open in your hips, and our hips provide us with that stability. And we want to have that stability in terms of living our day-to-day lives, especially with our businesses as entrepreneurs. And so again, it just reinforces that foundation for you to open the hips, to keep you solid, to continue to move forward. Arms are stretched in both directions, so you're reaching, and that creates an energy. And warrior 3 is a balance posture. And so again, it's about balancing life. It's understanding that if you go, do, and are busy all of the time, there's a likelihood that at some point you are going to start to feel lethargic, or you may even crash because you just don't have the energy and you're starting over.
And Anne, you are an inspiration for all of us coming back from like hitting rock bottom, and you have come up, you have shown yourself, you have lost weight. They're inspiring stories, and they have practiced yoga from you. Would you like to share a couple with us about those women, how they've changed their lives?
Absolutely. I have one woman, Annalise, who's been practicing yoga with me now for a couple of years. And she has a busy lifestyle. She works in the airline industry. And so you can imagine with COVID, just the stress. And she has found by practicing yoga twice a week, and then she'll do a third class online, that she feels more relaxed, more at ease. She is calm. Her levels of anxiety have decreased, and she was taking some medications, and that prescription and amount has decreased. Her relationship with her children and her partner have blossomed because she's in a different state, and she's feeling stronger, more flexible, and her mobility has increased. So that is huge for this one individual.
Yeah, it's perfect balanced life, because it's not only about our physical balancing ourselves, self-care, the nutrition comes in, and we start to make healthier eating choices, and even being self-conscious and mindful of our choices,
Absolutely. Yes.
That's right. So I want to ask you, the women out there who's hesitant still, and she's still wondering, I know all that information, but I'm still hesitant. What would be your advice to her?
Because you're in a room with a lot of different people, and you're on a mat, and I like my personal space, and you have that, but it's different. And because I was quite heavy, I felt vulnerable, because you can't disguise what you look like when you're going to practice yoga. I would say you just need to do it. You need to find in your heart and know that you're doing it for yourself. And what is the reason? For me, it was turning my life over from being unhealthy, unwell, to being well and healthy. And so find a studio and go in and participate in a class, and maybe start with a gentle yoga class, or a slow flow or restorative is a class that is very welcoming, because there's little movement we use props, and you have an opportunity to hold a stretch for a period of time, and you can feel tension and tightness almost melting like butter away from your body. So there are a variety of classes that anyone can participate in that would fit anybody's dream or desire to move into a yoga.
I think that would be helpful to a lot of people. I think starting from a slow class, yin and yang, is that a slower class?
So a yin class is a great class where there's a lot of stretching.
Yes.
And you hold postures for anywhere 3, 5, 7 minutes.
Okay.
And the music is always soft.
Yes.
When I teach a yin class, I have a theme, and I'll offer inspirational quotes at the start of the posture. So women can reflect on what the quote is, and they can start to feel it in their heart. And then we transition to the next posture, and it's another quote. And people leave that class feeling inspired and more alive and awake because they've opened their body. And physiologically, in a yin class, what happens is if your joints are really tight, as you're stretching, they loosen, and you've got that ability for them to move, and then the fluids within the joints are circulating in and around it. And then what happens is lymph nodes are taking away toxins and then releasing that out from your system. It's amazing.
Yeah. So to our listeners, where to find you?
Yes. I teach yoga in White Rock. I teach in a studio at Terrazorn Fitness, and they are located in White Rock. It's in my girlfriend's home, so I won't provide the address, but she had created a small little studio for me so that I could teach.
So how can they contact you on Facebook so that you can provide the address?
Yes. So they can contact me on Facebook, either at AMW Intuitive Coach or my personal Ann Marie Walsh. I'm also on Instagram, AMW Intuitive Coach. And I do post through social media in the White Rock, South Surrey communities, and that goes out to other communities as well. So I'm there on Tuesdays, and I teach online Saturday morning. And I also teach at Yoga Flow Langley, and that is a studio located at 208th and 72nd Avenue. And for that particular yoga, you would purchase a membership at Yoga Flow Langley.
Awesome. Yeah, so I put the link out there for you guys to follow her and all the amazing classes she does. And I am personally a yoga fan. I love yoga. Even though if I don't have the time, I have an app and I would do it for at least 10 minutes, get my flow out of there because it definitely keeps me balanced. So thank you, Ann, for coming today to my studio and the Chai Time with Prabhleen. It was a really good episode, and I'd love to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was wonderful to be here. Thank you, Prabhleen.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cut that. I'll edit this part.